What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest this week is New Jersey rapper Rasheed Chappell. We spoke about everything everywhere all at once, It's a Wonderful Life, seeing Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back of his late father, how movies play to both escapism and reality, New Jersey's place in hip-hop, the relationship between New Jersey and New York, his early career, why praise from your friends hits different, and the creative process behind his latest album, A Portrait Of, produced by Little Vic. Come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to Real Notes. We're back. I'm like 80% used to interviewing people again. Being on a month-long break could really just like sometimes you just gotta get the gears turning again. But we here thriving, eating lunch, talking to good people. Dylan Green, CineMasai. I got a lot of names, do a lot of shit. And I'm here with somebody else who's been moving and shaking for at least the last 12, 13 years, if not more. This man's a rapper, a businessman, a courtside basketball aficionado. Been going a little crazy lately.
This is true. This is true.
Fucking Jersey's finest in the house. We got Rasheed Chappell here.
What's going on? What's going on?
Man, thank you so much for being here, man. It's a real pleasure. A Portrait Of is out now, produced entirely by Little Vic. And just thank you for being here, man.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's a long time coming. So
for real.
Yeah,
yeah, for real. Before we even get started, I wanted to let you know that the first time I heard you was on Apollo Brown's Grandeur on the Still Standing joint, and that's like I forget who else. I talked to somebody else recently who was on that album too, but it's like really incredible how many people that album put me onto. And then I found out you're from Jersey, and I was like, oh, like it only makes sense why I gravitated to you so much. So yeah, just
appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's funny. A lot of people got hip to me because of the Apollo Brown album. So shout out to AB for the look. He and I were actually supposed to do an album together. That's how that actually came. That's how that came to fruition. But I was working with another producer at the time who kind of wanted to keep everything in house, and that's the only reason why that project never happened. So shout out to Apollo Brown. Shout out to that particular song. That was a pretty good song. I still go back and listen to that from time to time.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I hope it happens at some point. I had Apollo on maybe at the end of last year when he put out his last instrumental joint, and we talked about Grandeur a bit, and I think I might have mentioned your song, but either way, like it's just like I hope that happens because y'all have great chemistry, and Apollo collabs always go crazy, like always.
Yeah, I think we would do something special. I think it would be good. So yeah, let's see what's in the air. You never know.
Yeah, man.
You never know. True.
Always. But yeah, before we get back into the music for real, we're here to talk about movies first and foremost. So I'm gonna ask you the first question I ask everybody who comes on here. What was the last movie or TV show you watched that you had a strong opinion about?
The last movie was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh man, tell me how you felt about it.
It made its way into like my top 5 movies of all time. Like I think I think it's a remarkable movie as a parent and as a child, because we're all children of someone. So just to see all the different aspects of life and of parenthood and of being a child and of one's own expectations and living up to the expectations of someone else that was captured in that movie, I think was phenomenal. And it may have hit me a little bit differently because I just recently lost my dad. So just seeing the journey that he and I went through, that father-son struggle that a lot of people go through, and seeing how the mom was trying to live up to the expectations of her dad and never quite feeling worthy enough, and the daughter in turn not feeling worthy enough for her mom, and the mom trying to do everything, trying to show her daughter like anything and everything. It was a remarkable film. Like I recommend this. It's in my top. It might be in my top 3 movies of all time.
Man, but before we get to your top 3, yeah, like I saw it for the first time when it first started making the rounds around maybe like a little under a year ago. And it's been so long since I've been to a movie, and like I left the theater and just like walked around for 20 minutes and just like thought about like it's been so long since I've seen something that like made me be like, that's why I love movies, you know, like
Yeah,
it's just like
yeah,
it's just like the not even just the art of it, but like it's just like everything. It's like real artful. It's super entertaining. It's funny. It's sad. It's like I'm not gonna make the dumb joke, the dumb joke, but like yeah, it's a lot. And I saw it. I took my homie to see it, and then I watched half of it with my dad. And he fell asleep through some of it, but that's he's older. He falls asleep through everything. But you know, like you know, like as someone's child, because I'm not a parent, but like as someone who, you know, like we all have complicated relationships with our parents.
yeah,
So it's really easy to kind of imprint yourself on everything that they were going through. And just like the, you know, like that's the only movie I could think of where you've got like parental drama that's played out between 2 people, and then those same 2 people as rocks, like on a cliff, like with
yes,
googly
yes, yes,
eyes. Like,
yes,
just
yes. Yeah, it's
yeah, I
crazy.
just
It's crazy.
yeah, it was like it took itself seriously, but not very seriously. And I love stuff like that. It's able to maintain that balance, because like that's what life is, you know, like life is
Yeah,
funny and life is sad sometimes
yeah,
all at once.
yeah, absolutely. At the same time, sometimes, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, crazy, crazy.
So
Great
now I
movie.
gotta yeah, for real. So now I gotta ask, what's if you had to pick your other top 2, what would those be?
There's a movie that came out in I think 1948, if I'm not mistaken, called "It's a Wonderful Life,"
Hmm.
starring Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. My
Classic.
father, yeah, put me onto that movie many years ago, and you know, that particular movie where you don't know the impact that you have on people's lives, right? And you think that what you're going through is something that you can't overcome. And you know, sometimes we have to put our dreams aside for other people sometimes, and that was the basis of the story. But he didn't realize until, you know, he saw what other people's lives would have been if he wasn't here, how
Right.
much he affected so many different people. So that movie was absolutely, you know, I watch it every now and then, just to kind of reset and refocus. It's an absolutely great movie. Godfather 1 and 2. Like I can't watch without
Hmm.
one without the other. So if I'm watching the first part, I got to watch the second part. Um, that's up there. A recent movie that's made it into alongside Everything Everywhere All at Once is a movie called Harder They Fall. Um, a Netflix original.
The Western one, right?
Yeah, with Jonathan Majors and Idris
Yeah.
Elba. Um, Great movie, phenomenal movie. Uh, Boys in the Hood was another movie that kind of really gave, because you know, we didn't know what was going on in California. You know, we only kind of heard, you know, bits and pieces through music, but we didn't know what life was like out there. So growing up in the projects, we thought that our projects was the craziest thing in the world, you know. But
Right.
seeing what life was like in South Central LA was definitely eye opening. Um, Trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of good movies. Inception is another great movie. Um,
Been meaning to
that I
rewatch
can
that. It's been like 10 years since I've seen it.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? So these are movies that have stood the test of time, for me. But those would probably be about the tops right now that I could like really think of off the top of my head. But definitely, It's a Wonderful Life, Godfather 1 and 2. And I think Everything Everywhere All at Once might be number 3. I think it might be the third best movie I ever saw in my life.
Man, that's valid. And like it's so crazy to hear you say that you got to watch Godfather 1 and 2 back to back, because that's basically like 5 6 hours of watching right there. Like, do you got to like set out like an entire afternoon or evening to do that? Whenever, how often do you do that? Because that's a commitment.
So check this. So I'm a night owl. So what will
Hmm.
happen is sometimes I'll be home and it'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, you know what? Let me watch this shit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, like, and it happens just like that. It really just happens like that. Let me watch this, or I'll turn on the TV and it'll be on already, and I'm like, okay, well now I got to go back to the beginning, and just
Hmm.
watch the whole shit. So that's how that works.
When was the last time you did that? How long has it been?
Uh, Probably about a month ago, because Godfather 3 was on, so I was like, I can't watch Godfather 3. I got to go back and watch. I got to go back and watch 1 and 2. So probably about a month and a half ago. What are we? We're in January now, so
February,
no,
actually.
February. So maybe 2 months ago. So maybe like
Hmm.
November.
Yeah, that's like a the Godfather movies are very much like those are like Thanksgiving movies to me. Like in the sense of like you watch it with like 20 people and everyone's like, oh, like, I don't know what to watch this year. How about we just throw on the Godfather or something like that? Or like
Everybody says
or
yes. Or Goodfellas, right?
mm-hmm. Or like Elf.
Yeah, definitely Elf. Definitely Elf. Great, great, great Christmas movie.
Yeah, for real. I watched it for the first time in like 7, 8 years over Thanksgiving this year, and I was like, okay. I didn't like it as a kid for whatever reason, but like it just clicked in me now, and I like it. But
Smiling's my favorite.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
make
Will
work your
Ferrell.
favorite.
Yeah, Will Ferrell crazy.
Yeah, Faison Love's crazy too. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was a good movie. That was a really good
yeah,
movie.
truly. So for you, let's run it all the way back. What's the first
No,
movie experience you can remember having? It could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house, wherever. Like the first thing that comes to your mind.
um, I'm asked often about music, and I credit a lot of the music to my mom. Right, she had a huge record collection, but I have to say that the movie going experience is 100% my dad. Right, so he would take us to every big release that came out, right? I mean, everything. I'm talking Star Wars, I'm talking Indiana Jones, I'm talking like everything, Back to the Future, everything. And I think the first like real movie experience for me would have been Return of the Jedi. And I remember the lines being super long. And I remember my dad cutting the line. I mean, the block. I mean, wrapped around a corner, like wrapped around a movie. I mean, it was just the line was, and I'm this little kid, and he's holding my hand, and I remember cutting the line, and we were like me, my mom, my dad. I don't know if my cousin Latif was with us, but I think it was just us three, and just coming home, just so excited that I saw Return of the Jedi, like the day that it came out. So that's probably my first movie experience. But there's a ton of them. Going to see so many movies, Goonies, Back to the Future, Teen Wolf. You know, um, So like even as I'm telling you this now, my dad was a young man, right? He was 22 when he had me. So I'm saying
Mhm.
he must have been still young, and yeah, he was still young. And so these movies were like new experiences for him also. You know what I mean? Like the special effects, all that's still new for him. So taking his little son with him to go see these movies, like as I literally I'm working through that right now as because I never thought about it that way before. Like all this new
Wow.
technology was new to him as well. And so yeah, that would be the first one, Return of the
That's
Jedi.
that's wild. Two things. A, I noticed the same thing with my father. He's 77. He's about to be 78 actually in April. And like to him, like I'll notice him watching stuff and just like experiencing things. And he's like a big tech head. Like he messes around with producing software on his computer. Like he needs to have he needs to be like ahead of the curve on everything. But like I feel like once again, I'm not a father, but like kind of watching him see the world and kind of like experience stuff because like he was born in 45. So like
Wow.
everything's kind of like he watched technology advance from the TV to now. So like
Hmm.
he's just so like enraptured by all that stuff. And I can only imagine that, like your father taking you to see Return of the Jedi. He like I mean, like he was 22, or like at least in his like mid to late 20s when that happened. So like maybe it's a little different than being a 77-year-old, but like, just kind of, but just like having that experience of just like being that young and experiencing that for the first time sounds really, really special. Um, I can only imagine. And I was just curious, did he tell you, did he see Empire Strikes Back in theaters? And B, did he tell you any stories about people spoiling the movie? Because I've
Actually,
heard stories.
it's funny. I've never, I can't ask him now, but I never asked him that. I don't know if he saw Empire Strikes Back in the movies. Let me, I would say yes, he did, but I don't think there was any spoilers. I don't think there was any spoilers. Yeah, there were no spoilers. I don't think so. I'm sure he would have told me. But yeah, I've seen many people, and it's so funny that you couldn't. There's no way you could do it in today's day and age. That when
Yeah.
the press went to see the movie, that they actually didn't tell the ending. Like I've seen documentaries about the whole Star Wars saga, and it was like when that movie came out, the fact that the writers who got an early look at the movie didn't tell anybody that Darth Vader was Luke's father, or that Han Solo got frozen in a carbonite. Like, for them to keep that and people going to see it and experience it for the first time, there's no way in the world that would happen today. There's no way. There
Man.
would be video footage. There's just no way. There's no way.
Yeah, nah, people on Twitter love to spoil shit early now. I respect the integrity, honestly. I didn't, because like I've never read the older reviews. I've just heard stories of people like there'd be somebody online at the movie and then somebody else would come out and be like, "Oh, I can't believe Darth Vader is Luke's father." And it's like, like they're
Yeah,
about
yeah,
to go
yeah,
walk in. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that shit is rough. But I respect the integrity, honestly. Like that's like everyone's so ready to talk about every little bit and piece, which like is only natural. Like people are excited and they want to talk about it, but like that one's so like monumental, and it's kind of like the spoiler of like every movie ever. Like that's the
Yeah.
one that everyone knows. It's like that, and like Batman's parents dying. Like those are the two that everyone knows. Like.
There was the Crying Game was one also, uh,
Mm,
where I remember being little and hearing people talking about the ending of that, because I guess the woman was a man. I never saw the movie, but there was like a love interest that was in the movie, and I guess the guy was in love, and then at the end you find out that she's actually a man. Uh, excuse me. Usual Suspects was another one
right.
where
Yep.
Kaiser
Yep.
Sosa walked straight at the end. So yeah, but nothing like Empire Strikes Back. Nothing
Right.
like that.
Yeah. And like as you get older and you start experiencing more stuff, and like was there ever a period of time, or not even was there a period of time, what was the first time you saw a movie that kind of stopped you in your tracks and really like impacted you as something more than just like a piece of entertainment? Like not even in like an artful sense, but just something that like really connected with you emotionally, or something that was like, oh, like this is a movie and not just like a thing that like I go to have fun, or whatever, just like something that really impacted you.
I think very early on, like just the movie experience itself, because it just gave me the opportunity to dream, and so there's a lot of people where I'm from that, are still there. They haven't had the opportunities, they haven't gone to places, they haven't done the things that they're probably potentially able to, because they never had a dream, they never saw it somewhere else. And so, going to the movies, and even coming from, my upbringing, right? So both of my parents were addicted to crack cocaine. And, my dad still found a way, or it was still in his DNA to take me to see movies. So whatever I saw at home, I still have the ability to dream, right? I saw something different, right? I saw something different from what my circumstances and surroundings were. So that gave me the idea that, yo, I could be great, right? I can't be fucking Scott Howard. I can't turn into a teen wolf and play basketball, but maybe I can
Right.
go achieve greatness, right? I'm never going to meet a fucking a Doc Brown and go back to the future, but maybe I could, achieve something like a Marty McFly. Or I'm not going to go into space, but maybe I could train and focus and become something of a Jedi and whatever it is that I want to do. Right. So all these things were instrumental in just allowing me to think that there's something outside of where I grew up. There's more than just this, right? Or, maybe I could be a Goonie and go on a search and find something, right? But the search is really the search within, right? To find that thing inside of you,
Yeah.
right? So it's always been something that fascinated me, right? Just like, wow, like this is amazing, and then movies like The Godfather, and about family and what are we really doing it for, right? If it's not about family, what are we doing it for, right? And then you look at It's a Wonderful Life, the people you touch, right? The people that you actually touch and the people that you impact and you never know. And so all those movies from the very first experience of watching cartoons, right? Fucking
Yeah, yeah,
Transformers,
yeah.
yeah, like, so just all of it was what made me say, yo, I can achieve, I can be great, like it's in me. And then, having the ability to go out and do it. So yeah, movies have always, from the first one I saw, to answer your question, from the first movie I saw, impacted me in a way like, okay, this is more than just like an hour and a half of going someplace else. Like, this is something.
Wow, that's such a dope answer.
Thank
Excuse
you.
me. I don't even have like a yeah, I don't
I
even
didn't
have
even
like a
rehearse that one. I didn't even
hey
rehearse it.
man.
That was a freestyle.
That's beautiful. Because yeah, like that's always because like we always talk about like movies as escapism, and like they are that, like it's entertainment at the end of the day. But like, it's so important to never forget that, like, this is the stuff that people dream about. And like art imitates life and life imitates art in ways that like regardless of whether it's movies or music or literature or video games, any of that stuff, like we're all like all of that stuff is like reflective of our experience as humans. And it can, like, we don't always think about it that way, but
I think
sometimes you
about it,
have, yeah.
pardon me, not to interrupt you, but I
No.
think about it like kind of like in the reverse though, right? I don't think it's really escapism. I think it's like I don't know what the antithesis of that, or the photo negative of escapism would be realism, I guess, because when I watch these movies, it makes me think about myself in those situations, right? It
Me
doesn't
too.
it it makes me, how would I respond, react, like how, like, so it always makes me internalize what it is that I'm seeing. I don't ever look at it kind of like as just an out of like an out of me experience, but something like that's actually inside of me. And that's how I've always kind of like digested movies, music, art, just I've always seen it that way. Like, how would I be in that situation? Even something like sports, like the fortitude to, boxing is my favorite, just to be in there with a guy who's not yielding. Like, what are you gonna do? So it's just how would you respond to that, Rasheed? And it's,
Right.
yeah, I've always looked at it that way. Like, when I close my eyes and I watch the movie, like, how would I move? Because they talk about us black folks like talking during a movie, right? Don't do that, run, don't go in there, because we're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Right. See, no, I'm happy you took it there, because that's like, like I find myself doing that more as I get older. It depends on like where I'm at watching a movie, of course, and like, but I'm happy you made that. I'm happy you made that distinction, because like because like for me personally, I'm also living everything I'm watching, and it's like an active experience where you're like where it's either like you feel like you're in it, or you're just like so tapped in that it's just like, oh man, like I'm just like you're just invested in it, and that's like that's so special. And it's not something that like I got that from the first movies I used to watch as a kid too. One of my earliest experiences was with The Lion King, and my dad and my father always tells me the story about how like I was 4 years old, and as soon as the movie started, I got up out my chair and would just like and like I was like poking my head over the chair in front of me, and I was like that the whole time, just watching the movie, and like so like that was. I always, whenever I watch anything, I'm pretty much just that 4-year-old kid, like watching anything, and it's really, like losing that is something that's scary to me. And it's something that just makes experiencing anything that much more fun, like I appreciate like you being able to kind of see, or not even so much see myself, but just like actively participate in stuff like that. Cause not
I
everybody
mean,
can,
I mean,
like,
not and not to like, go off this direction, but you're right. Like that. That's where the beauty of life is, not losing that. So not losing that 4-year-old kid, not still getting excited and anticipating and joyous when those moments occur, and remembering that that it is a beautiful experience, you know what I mean? And so, there's so much wonder in the world, man, and sometimes we get so jaded, and then in those moments, like, it comes back to us, right? For that hour and a half, that hour 45, that 2 hours, whatever the length of the movie is, you're just so alive in ways that, the other parts of your world may not allow you to be. And that's the beauty of movies, right? That's the beauty of,
mm-hmm.
So when you hear the person saying, "Oh, I don't know why people get dressed up to go to Comic-Con," or "I don't know why people," because you lost it. You
Yeah.
lost it. You lost it, right?
Yeah.
Because when you were a kid, you would put a towel around your neck to watch a Superman movie because you were
Uh-huh.
in it. Don't ever lose it. And that's it.
Never. Man, I want to go back to Comic-Con. It's been like 3-4 years. I'm trying to dress up too. It's been a while
You know
since I've
what's
done it. But
I actually was on a panel. I spoke at Comic-Con this past year in New York.
oh wow. What for?
It was about the correlation between hip hop and comics and how the parallels between the two worlds. And I got to sit on an amazing panel with some great folks. And it was, it was my first time going to Comic Con, and going as a panelist was like, mind blowing.
Man, I can only imagine. Like, what was
It
it?
was
So, sorry, what?
it was fire. That's all I gotta say.
That's
It was fire.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, what was so like that being your first Comic-Con experience? Like, what was it? What was it like being there? Who did you sit on the panel with? Like, what did you see? Like, what was your favorite part of being at Comic-Con? Because that's like it's such an experience, bro. Like,
Um, it was hosted. I forget the doctor's name. I'm looking. I see her face right now. She's a PhD. But there was a very famous graffiti artist. Sen One was there. The former editor of the Source in Excel. His last name is Miles. I forget his name. He was there. There was another
mm-hmm.
rapper. Amira was there. It was just to see how many people, from all walks of life are tapped into the same things that I'm tapped into, right? Because I'm hip hop, right? I'm a rapper. I'm an artist, So I
Right,
came in. I wasn't dressed as a character, but I'm walking in. I got my Jordans on. I'm chilling, and seeing
right.
people, dressed as Harry Potter, and seeing people dressed as stormtroopers, and seeing people dressed as Spider-Man, like, Marvel, DC. Like, it was just crazy to be in that environment. And then when it came time for the panel, to see how many people, the intersection of all those people that tapped into hip hop.
Yep.
So we think that, hip hop is a monolith as far as what the audience looks like, especially specifically my brand of hip hop, but you'd be surprised how far it spreads into other genres of entertainment as well. So that was a very, very dope experience.
That's so tight. Yeah, and you're right. Like, it's it can be beautiful and very scary to see how big rap's audience has become, especially over the course of the last like 20 years. Like
Hmm.
I've never sat on a panel, at Comic-Con before, but I've been to but like I've been to several. I've been in the audience, and like I've seen a lot of like rap panels over there. I actually learned about this really really early rap comic called Rappin' Max Robot from, I think, maybe the 70s or the 80s, I forget. Like it's really cool, like super super like foundational, like five pillars type shit. Like, but
Okay.
it's like cool to see that stuff. And like rap and comics have always been so intertwined from the very very beginning of this whole
Yeah.
shit, like going back to Run DMC and them. Like that's like
Yeah.
it's like almost as hip hop as anything else,
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's
like
where a lot of the early rappers, they got their alter egos and their names, like, you know what I mean? Like, so,
exactly.
so, so it's always been, and again, when we talked earlier about the escapism, no, they didn't escape into comics. They saw themselves in the comic books. And that's why they took
Yep.
on the names of Grandmaster Caz, and I'm going to be Grandmaster Flash, and I'm going to be,
Exactly.
like, I'm going to be these guys, Kumo D. I'm going to take on an alter ego where I wear shades and I'm not, and it's just like it's always been that. It's always seeing yourself, and those guys really took it. And as I'm in my home right now, and I'm looking at this box set of 45s from the movie Wild Style, and I'm just looking at the
Mhm.
cover art of this, right? And that's a comic book cover, right? Why wouldn't that?
Yeah.
Just the art, the vibrancy of it, like it's all intertwined.
Right. Yeah, it's all intertwined. And to run back over to the music side of it, A, you mentioned you grew up in Passaic. B, you mentioned that your mother was a big part of your music journey. So like so like not even when did music first come into your life, but like when did you first start, when did it become like an active thing where you're like, oh, it's music, like this is dope. Like, yeah.
I mean, I have no answer for that. Like, I can't imagine a time in my life where music wasn't the dominant source of entertainment. I just or the most um, present influence. Like, I can't. There's no time. I've told this. Like, I'm talking young. I'm talking 3, 4 years old, and I could, just feel the temperature in a room based upon what music was playing. I know if my parents
Right.
parents were partying, because of what songs were playing. I knew if they had had a fight by what songs was playing. I knew if they were about to fuck by by like I could just tell. I just knew, the mood of the room. I knew if my cousins from Philly was here by the music that was playing, and then going to the projects, to see my other cousins down there was a different type of music, a different type of vibe.
Uh-huh.
So it was just,
That's a fact.
music is all, yeah, absolutely. So music always, um, it's always been there. It was always the thing. And I remember, my dad used to hustle back in the day, and his connect lived in Brooklyn. And I remember going with him and just hearing the difference of the sound when you got to New York, right? Because they, I mean, I grew up, 13 minutes away from Midtown Manhattan, but when you get
Hmm.
into Brooklyn and you get into the outer boroughs, like they were creating their own. It wasn't what was on the radio. So I'm
Right.
going into neighborhoods hearing their shit. You know what I mean? It was just so ill. And then my cousin Yvette, she dated this dude Dave from New York, and he would come over and he would be playing shit. It was just everywhere. And then my next door neighbor, he was in and out of jail, right? One of my best friends growing up, his
Yeah.
uncle was in and out of jail, so he was bringing new shit that, like the Kid Capri cassette, when they were $100. Like he
Wow.
riding around in his Volvo blasting that shit. It was just, yeah, like it was everywhere. Then my mom's music, and then my dad listened to his jazz and his shit. It was everywhere. Like it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
That's gorgeous. And like I feel like I don't want to say that's unique to Jersey, but like I feel like because we have that can because we're so close to Manhattan, and we're so close to like New York City and all the boroughs, because like I also have family out in Brooklyn and Queens, so I would also spend a lot of time shuffling between Jersey and into the city to see my family. And I had not the exact same experience, but like a very, very similar one. Like I know exactly what you're talking about when you say it. And like Jersey and New York are so like we exchange so much. Like people don't
Oh,
want to talk
absolutely.
about it so much, but like we exchange so much. And I feel like that particular relationship is super unique, like between
Yeah.
New Jersey and New York, like more than a lot of other places.
Yeah, and especially here in northern Jersey, because you got to imagine. So I'm 13 minutes away from Midtown, right?
Yep.
So you get to Midtown, you want to go to Harlem, you get in the Harlem influence. You want to go down the FDR, you're in Battery Park, so that's a different experience. You want to, the Lower East Side, like we're right here. And then there's parts of New Jersey, like a Bayonne, New Jersey, which is
Yeah.
6 minutes from Staten Island.
Right.
Like so
Exactly.
you're literally 6 minutes from Staten Island. And it's like, Staten Island is right next to Brooklyn. So it's like you get, I mean, yeah, so you're getting all of these influences, right? It, it's just crazy. It is something that,
Right.
I didn't I'm humbled and blessed that I got a chance to experience it the way that I did when I did. And yeah, it is a very unique relationship. I'm not sure if it exists anywhere else, just because of proximity. I'm not sure if people from Nevada feel the same way about LA.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but it is just this corridor of exchange between the music and influences and styles and lifestyles and trends, and it's very dope. It's very dope.
Right. And like and then just like considering all the talent we got in Jersey, like I can't, like I feel like I've been mentioning this a lot lately, but like people still don't know that Just Blaze is from Patterson, like born
Yes.
and raised in Patterson. Like,
Hmm.
I mean like Naughty by Nature is from Jersey, Redman's from Jersey, like and
SZA is from New
SZA's from
Jersey.
Maplewood. She's from
Yeah,
Maplewood, bro. Like
so it's like, yeah, it
and
is.
like and then on top of that you have like Jersey Club is starting to really come back into prominence, at least on like a national scale now. Like club's always been big where we're from, but like it's
Hmm.
more people are recognizing it now, and just like just like seeing those styles mix with everything going on in New York. Like like I love Bandman Real, who's a young kid from Newark, and like his music is a mix of like club and drill.
Okay.
And like that's just like a really nice modern example of seeing how New York and New Jersey are just like feeding into each other and like creating something so unique and interesting and new and fresh.
I mean, it's
And
always been that way,
yeah,
like
it's
you're
always been
right.
that way.
From yeah, it just is what it is. There's no, it's a history that's tied together from Grandmaster Cass to Sugar Hill Gang. So
Exactly.
there's no way around it. Like the story can't be told about hip hop in this area, or a lot of music in general in this area, without introducing New Jersey into it.
Yeah, man.
I know early on in my career, people would ask me, was there ever, there's some bias about being a Jersey artist? And I can honestly say I never felt it. I never had any experiences where I wasn't embraced by New York artists being from Jersey. A lot of people, literally today, prior to getting on a call with you, someone was like, "Oh, where are you from? The Bronx?" And I'm like, "I've been accused of being from many places in New York, never the Bronx." But they assume that I'm from Queens or Harlem or somewhere like that, and I'm like, "Nah, like I'm born and raised in New Jersey." So yeah, we the shit over here.
Right, man. People, and like before we move on, like people I feel like people don't understand like what happens in Jersey, and like everybody thinks of Jersey as like the place where like the big rappers move to once they get all the bread, like they like go and move to like the nice areas of Montclair and like everywhere around there. But like people, but so like people either know about Montclair or Newark. That's it. That's all anybody knows about Jersey. Like everybody I talk to is like, people are like, "Oh, like you live 20 minutes from Newark." I'm like, "Yeah." Like I've lived right next to Newark my whole life. You know, it's not something
Yeah,
I really think about, and it's just like because like people, you know, like people don't think about the fact that like certain parts of Jersey, like not everything is like all nice and frilly in suburbs. Like there's plenty of those, but like
man.
it's
Listen,
everything over here, man. It's just funny to see how people don't get it. And but anyway,
there's parts of Patterson, bro. There's parts of Patterson. There's parts of Camden, Trenton, uh, Rawway.
yeah,
There's parts of Jersey that are wild. Like really really wild. And there's, like you said, there's some beautiful parts. You know, Jersey. Whatever you want is here. You want farmland, we got that. You want inner city, we got that.
yeah,
You want a mix. You want a town. You want something that's picturesque. We got that. We got everything. We got shore. We got everything here.
right, man. We got everything.
We got mountains. So
Yep.
you go skiing if you want to, right up in Vernon. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good place. It's a very good place. I like it here.
Right. Yeah, me too. We got diners and malls too. They got
Oh,
that right
definitely
about us.
diners.
We got
We
diners
def
and malls everywhere.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Yeah, I always joke about the fact that Jersey might as well be the diner state, not the garden state. Like there's diners
Facts,
everywhere, especially in
facts,
northern Jersey. Like
facts, facts. That's a fact. That's a fact.
that shit is so funny. You know, for you, since this is about, you know, like the intersection of rap and film, as you got older and started to experience more, you know, just like media and having more experiences, was there ever a period of time where you consciously noticed that rap and film are or music and film more broadly, if you want, like were two things that kind of complement each other? Like even in the sense of something like like just as an example, like the way like a song can amplify a scene in a movie, or the way like a music video can amplify a song. It doesn't have to be that specifically, but like, was there ever a time when that happened for you?
I mean, music and film are forever linked, right? The moment that silent films went out the window, and well, even in silent film, there was just no words, but there was music, right? So and the
Right.
words would pop up on the screen. So there's no way to remove the two from each other. And it would definitely be someone like a Michael Jackson who was making movies with his music videos, right? So
Hmm.
that would be the experience that was like, holy shit, like, what is this? Like, like this is like, I know what a music video is, but this is a movie. This is something else. Like Thriller
Right.
was something else, So yeah, it's always been that way for me. There's a scene in Boys in the Hood where after Ricky was shot and killed, they were driving to go find the people, and then there's a piece of music by Stanley Clark that's playing. And it's
I
like
remember.
that scene without that music is not as powerful. The opening theme to Star Wars,
Hmm.
composed by John Williams.
The
It's
goat.
not the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, yeah, you feel me? Like, so these are things that like I'm aware, and I think if there's anybody who listens to my music, they can definitely see where I pay attention to those type of things and how important sounds are to emotion, and vice versa. So yeah, it was the making of movies, music videos that were movies like the Michael Jacksons, the Madonnas, that really
Yep.
brought it together on the music side, because it was always there for the music on the movie side, right? So you go to the movie theater, you know, uh, I I can't think of his name right now. Um, can't think of his name right now, but he made not John Hughes, but he made a ton of movies like in the '80s, Breakfast Club,
Oh,
16 Candles.
I think it's John Hughes. I'm pretty sure that's
It,
John
it was
Hughes.
yeah, okay. So John Hughes, so he knew the importance of soundtracks, and he knew the importance of the movie, and how you tie in the right sounds, it could, give the movie bigger life because people had just tapped into the music of it. But once we
Right.
got it on the music side and started saying, okay, these visuals are as important as the song, that was the eye-opening part for me. Like, oh shit, like this could be, something huge.
Hmm. What was there? What if you had to pick one? What would you say your favorite music video ever is? Would it be Thriller or would it be something else?
Favorite music video could be Remember the Time. You know,
Another
um,
classic.
just seeing us as Black folks in those roles, and for whatever was said about Michael Jackson, because there's a whole, um, you can write books and essays on Michael, just how his appearance changed and what you think he thought of himself, for the
Right.
lighter skin pigment. He knew
Yeah.
that if I'm going to do something in Egypt, I need Black folks. Right. He could
Absolutely.
have, like
Yeah.
he's Michael Jackson. He could have had anybody. He was friends with Elizabeth Taylor, who played Cleopatra. I believe she was still alive at the time. He could have had her, sitting up there, but he had Iman, and he had Eddie Murphy, and he
Eddie
had
Murphy
Magic
and Magic
Johnson,
Johnson. Yep.
and he
I know the
had
video. It's so good.
Tiny Lister, right? And he had it choreographed by Fatima, right? You know what I mean? So it was that was as a child, as a kid watching that, that was like, holy shit, like this is big. Michael, and it debuted on regular television on a Sunday, to have Michael Jackson say, okay, I'm gonna do this, and it's Remember the Time, and it's all Black people in regal roles. That was fire.
Gorgeous. Yeah. I think I might have seen the video for the first time like a decade after it came out because they had like a compilation DVD that had like a bunch of his big videos like Black or White, and of course Thriller, The Way You Make Me Feel. I
Bad.
could list
Uh-huh.
I could, yeah, Bad, of course, like all yeah, like with Wesley Snipes in the video. Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese directed that video, fun fact. Um
Yeah. John
and
Singleton directed Do You Remember the Time?
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's just like like those videos are really important to me, just like because like my sister and I would like do the choreography like in the living. It was that type of shit, you know?
I
And
feel you.
yeah. And before we move on to your music career proper, you had mentioned that bit in Boys in the Hood right after Ricky gets shot. And you made me remember I just saw Cooley High for the first time maybe about a month ago. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but go see it. It's
Yeah. If they
incredible.
haven't seen
It's
it, it's too late.
Yeah,
Tell
it's
her, go
cool.
ahead, say
Yeah. So
it.
so I guess it's like at the very end when Preach is standing over Cochise's grave and he reads the poem, and then It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday plays, which I didn't realize that song was written for Cooley High. And like I started tearing up, man. That got me. I was like, oh no, you can't
Yeah,
be
man.
doing this to me right now, because like we all know the Boys to Men song, and of course the album's called like Cooley High Experience or something, like I forget the exact title, but
Oh, you mean for the soundtrack?
yeah, no, or no, for the Boys to Men album, like their debut album was called, so it was like Cooley High something,
Yeah, it was
like
Cooley High something experience. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
The first Boys to Men album. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just, like that, but like that moment's so powerful in and of itself. Just, like just like Black men being vulnerable and tender with each other is always really powerful. But like hearing it with It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, the original version, just, and then he runs off to go to Hollywood. Oh, it was just like, man, like
But what's
yo,
what's
yo,
so
yo,
ill about what's so ill about that scene to me is everyone's looking for Preacher. Like everybody's looking for Preach, right? He's not there. And
right.
and so the first time you see him, a woman is looking out of the car window. Right? His girlfriend is looking out of the car window,
Right.
and she sees him coming across the cemetery. Right? Because the services are over, but she knows, where is he? He got to be here. There's no way
Yeah.
Preach is not going to be here. And you see him, and they exchange acknowledgement of eyes, and then he gets to the grave, and you know, that was a very powerful scene.
Yeah, no.
Was that Glenn Norman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Glenn Norman or Glenn Thurman, I think is. Yeah, yeah, he's incredible. Like I knew who he was, but like, you know, Cooley High was something that wasn't really available on like home media in good condition like that. And the Criterion Collection put out like a fully remastered version
I haven't
with the
seen.
original Motown soundtrack. Yeah, like it was like a Christmas present I got. So I was like,
That's what's
it's
up.
incredible. It's so worth adding to your collection if you find it.
Have
Like,
you ever saw the television show What's Happening?
yeah, I
And
have.
you know that role was originally supposed to go to the guy who played Raj, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but he turned it down, and the rest is history.
Because it was originally supposed to be a Cooley High TV show, right? I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
was it that I didn't know, but I know that role in that movie was supposed to go to him, but he turned it down, and you know,
Yeah, that I didn't know, but I looked it up after, and apparently, yeah, apparently, What's Happening originally started as as a TV adaptation of Cooley High, and then
oh, so that makes sense. So that
yeah,
makes sense then. That makes sense
for
then.
some reason they decided to just make it a completely original. I forget why, but it might have been like a rights issue, but they just made it its own original show, and that's how we got What's Happening. Yeah.
Yes, hey.
um so for you, you know, like growing up, you know, like a late teenager, young man, or let me not assume that yet. When did you know rap would become more than just a hobby for you? Like, when was it like, oh, like I'm doing this? Like,
Um, you know, I, I'm asking myself that question as you're asking me that question, and you know, I have a very, he's like a brother to me. His father and my father hung out before we were born, and he was the earliest of us to do rap. Right, so at maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, he was rapping, writing rhymes, and I wasn't, you know, I got to rap as far as wanting to do it late, almost as a bet, almost as a dare, you know. And I didn't write my first rhyme, I think, so I was like 13, 14. That's when I wrote my first rhyme, 13 or 14. And I remember doing my first talent show in my sophomore year of high school. And fun fact, my very first performance, I rapped over a beat produced by K Def, from K Def and Larry O and Lords of the Underground and other people that he's produced for. He's from my city, Passaic. And I want to say maybe around 18, 18 and 19, I really was like, yo, like I'm gonna do this. Like this is my purpose. Like this is what I'm here to do. And I say that to say that when I said that to myself, I wasn't really good, right? I had potential. You know, I had gotten some love from some people telling me, "Yo, keep at it, keep at it." One of my boys, Damon, right before he went to jail, we met up, and you know, he had to turn himself in, and he tells me that he knew I was ready that day because I spit him a rhyme, and he was like, "Yo, this is incredible." You know, but I wasn't ready. You know, I wasn't ready, and I remember doing like my first couple of demos and shit like that, and you know, listen to myself back. And but I just knew. I was like, yo, this is what I'm gonna do. Like there's nothing else that fills me. There's nothing else that feels right for me. Like this is what I'm gonna do. And so probably want to say like maybe 18 is when I really, really knew. Like, yo, like I'm fucking rapping, yo. Like this is it, you know. And it
right.
and to think that it started as a fucking bet, like a dare, like a dare. It was me, Keen. You don't know these people, but it was me, Kian, Richie, Rocky, you know, and I was like, yo, like y'all can rap, like y'all, we should rap for the talent show, like yo, we should word. Rest in peace, said, you know, like yo, we should rap for the talent show, and we fucking started writing rhymes, and yeah, we was in talent show.
I feel like there's a lot of people. Well, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people who it starts off as like like do this for me right now, and you're like, I don't really know if I can handle it, but and you just like never know where your life's gonna head, especially that young, and then
Yeah,
just to
man.
be like, yeah, I'm here, like that's so special.
It's
um,
crazy.
and you please forgive me. I don't know if you had released anything before this, but the earliest project of yours I was able to find was Future Before Nostalgia from 2011. Was there anything before that, or would you consider that your like my first album? Like what's yeah.
So I signed my first deal in 2008, and we released a single in 2009, um, which was produced by the legendary producer Kenny Dope. Um,
Shout
so we
out.
released that, and yeah, shout out to KD. We did that in 2009, and then we worked on the album Future Before Nostalgia, which came out in 2011. So that is my official debut. That was, that was my introduction to the world on a much bigger scale than just selling CDs hand to hand. And they say that it takes a lifetime to create a first album, and definitely that's the truth. And
Right.
that's what that album is.
Right. And like I was really intrigued by the title, like Future Before Nostalgia, because like I feel like especially as we get older, we're always so preoccupied with like the past and like would my past self be cool with what I'm doing right now? Like would young me be happy? Which is always great. Like, like I'm always kind of judging wherever I'm at based on what 16-year-old Dylan would want, and like and like they're pretty happy. So let's keep it that way. But like where did the idea and just like what to you, what did Future Before Nostalgia mean? Because like that's such a I'm just really intrigued by that concept. Like where did that come from for you?
And I hate to burst your bubble. Like I hate to like have you
That's
think that
cool,
there was
man.
some real deep meaning or concept, behind the title. But we had released a we did a song called Building Eight. We did a few songs that night, right? So this one particular night we did a few records. One of them was Building Eight, and we released it. Right? We released the record, and it got a crazy response. Like it was, this is the blog era, so this
Right.
is it went crazy on the blog sphere. And we were like, yo, we should do a mixtape, right? We should just put something together and then release it, and then we'll release an album. And we knew that we wanted the album's title to be Nostalgia. So if we were going to do an album called Nostalgia, then the mixtape should be the future before nostalgia, right? It should be what came before nostalgia. So that's how that particular title came to be. But in retrospect, like looking back on the title, like I think it was very fitting for what would be proceeding, what was to come, and just the way that many people say that my music is it gives them a feeling of something that they grew up with, but more updated or progressive. So you know, in
Right.
hindsight, maybe it was prophetic.
Yeah, I mean that's already like that's already something there. It's not exactly what I had in mind, but like, it's definitely connected and there's something going on for sure. Like
Facts.
I like like I'm also always really intrigued by like debut projects that are connected to like really old shit that no one except like you and your closest people have ever heard.
Facts.
Cause like that's like like that's like something you and your people have, and now you're kind of introducing that to the world, and that can be a really scary thing to do, like really just putting yourself out there like that and being like, not only am I going to do this, but I'm going to do it in a way that's so connected to me and where I come from and the people I love and people I fuck with like the long way, like that's pretty deep. Like not to not to get too deep about it, but like that's pretty deep.
But it is actually because they say that, and I said this a little bit earlier. They say it takes a lifetime to create a debut album, and
Mm-hmm.
I think on that particular album, it wasn't necessarily a lifetime of living. There's bits and pieces of it, but there was a lifetime of wanting to be an MC. Right, so you get me rapping on that album, from a rapper's perspective, from an MC's perspective, and I'm touching on some things. And then to go full circle with an album like A Portrait of, which is a life of living, and
Yeah.
that particular album, I just think that is so crazy. Just the two bookmarks, like if my career were to end today, just from beginning to end, and all the things that were caught up in between, I think has been pretty remarkable to see a growth of a person. Ideology, just um, pace, just cadence, just is really, I don't listen to my music after it comes out.
Yeah.
Um, but my buddy Hill that I was telling you about was the earliest of us rapping. He told me that he listened to Future for Nostalgia. Maybe if I spoke to him yesterday, he said he probably listened to it like 3 or 4 days ago. And I'm like, you listen to that? And he was like, yeah, I fucking listen to that. Yeah, I listen to that album still. And it's crazy, man. Like this whole shit has been crazy.
Yo, man, but before I ask you the other question I wanted to ask about the album, it's so important and so good for me to hear that your friends support your music. Like as creatives and people who work in this industry, like it's always so gratifying when like as special as the people we meet in this business are to us, like people I've met here, I consider to be like my best friends, and I've known they're like I feel like I've known them my whole life. But like it's always so different to hear that from like your people, like your niggas that you grew up with, like, like that matters. And it feels, it's gonna feel so different to anything, like, like I
Dylan,
have
man.
people who, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'll tell you. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt your thought.
All I was gonna say is like I have people that I grew up with who like support my writing and my whatever I do, it's just like I'm just happy people care. That's all I was gonna say. Like I just appreciate people caring. But yeah.
It's the wildest shit, right? So um so we make this music, we share it with the world, we get on stage, we perform it. People follow us on social media, people comment, and all of that shit is cool. Right, that shit is dope, right? It's dope, walking into venues and being recognized, and people like, oh, like all of the shit that comes along with it is fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I remember when I was working on the album with Buck Wild, right? So
Yeah.
so I have an album with Buck Wild, and I'm in Boston, and I'm in Boston because that's where I go to mix and master my music. And it's Buck Wild is there. My youngest son, is with me, and my man Hill is with me. Right, and we're up there for like 3 4 days. We get an Airbnb, and we mix and master on this music and shit. And I come back, and my boy Coop, who I've known since I'm 12 years old, is in Philly, and I'm down at the house. We just cooking out and shit, and we're talking about the new album. And I'm like, as dope as it is to be working on an album with Buck Wild, what's even iller is that I'm sitting in my friend's house who I've known since I'm fucking 12 and telling him about the album. And one of the
Man.
people that was in Boston with me is a guy I knew who our parents knew each other before they were fucking. Our dads knew each
Right.
other before they were fucking. And here we
Wow.
are up in Boston mixing and mastering an album together. And I get to come back to my boy's house, sit down in Philly, and tell him about it. Not somebody new, not somebody I just met, not a manager, not a handler, not a publicist, but I'm sitting in my fucking, since I'm 12 years old, I'm the godfather to his daughter. I'm sitting in his
Right.
living room with my shoes off, telling him about this album and what me and my other friend did up in fucking Boston. Like that's fire to me. That
Yeah.
trumps the DMs, yo, let's work, your music is fire. Like that shit is cool. But having my man Hill or being on a fucking 4-way call maybe 2 months ago when the album dropped, Portrait of, and niggas that I haven't seen in years, haven't seen in a while, but we grew up together, like, yo, fucking Tanisha, yo, who you talking about on Tanisha? I knew you for like, you know, just like that shit is crazy to me. That shit is wild to
Yeah,
me.
man. Yeah,
That shit is
it's
wild to
like
me.
there's nothing else like it, bro. There really isn't, you know, like I just yeah, I mean like it's not on the same scale, and I don't want to dwell on me too much, but you know, just like for the first time last year, I had somebody walk up to me at a show. It wasn't my show, mind you. I was just at someone's show. It might have been a homie. I can't remember who it was. But they walked up to me and they said, "Are you Dylan Green?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "I love your podcast." And I was like, "What? You know what this is?" Like like that'll never not be crazy to me. B, it's even it like as wonderful and as beautiful and as grateful as I am for that, it felt even better to talk to people I went to high school with and just have somebody be like, "Oh, like I seen you doing your podcast. I heard this episode, that episode." And I'm like, "You're listening?" You know, like I'm like trying to keep it cool, but I'm just thinking like, "You're listening to my shit. What do you mean?" It's just like it just feels good to kind of imprint people that mean a lot to you, and to be able to share that with them, like you were saying, like being able to share in the wins with people that like know you, like from then, it's priceless.
Because
It goes over everything.
it
Like,
goes back to Godfather. Like if we're not
yeah.
doing it for family, because blood makes you related, experiences make you family. If we're not doing it
Hmm.
for the family, if we all can't benefit, like I have 5 friends in this world, right? And you know, there's a lot of people that like that I've come in contact with. I know a lot of people, but there are 5 friends that are very dear to me. And having these people in my life and fucking with me the way that they do, it means a lot. So to see them excited about something I'm doing, and the only one that's really, really involved is Hill, you know, on a day to day. CEO Suge, I made a record about him, and it's just like, you know, it's just like it is amazing, bro. Like it's fucking amazing. And I did a record on the Portrait of album called Becoming, and he was there. Like he knows the life journey that I've been on, and so I remember driving from the studio, bringing it to him to go listen to the record. Now I had to listen to the record probably about 10, 15 times before I got to him. And when I got to him, you know, he came out of the house and he's walking to the car. And like I just and this has never happened before. It hasn't happened since. Like I just start fucking crying because the music, you know, it just was hitting me in a way that it hadn't hit me before. And he comes and he gets in the car and he didn't say a word, he didn't be like, yo, what the fuck you crying for? Nothing like that. He just fucking put his hand on my shoulder and he's like, yo, this shit is real, right? And I'm like, yeah. And so there's no one else, I think, outside of someone that has been there with you through it that could really have been there for me in that moment. So, like I said, there couldn't have been any A&R, there couldn't have been any handler, any manager that would have, you know, understood the gravity of that moment because they hadn't been through the whole process. So, for someone to have been there through the whole process, in fact, when I lived uptown and he came to my house and we walked downtown to the projects. He was the first person to tell anybody in the projects that I rapped. So from going from that all the way to Becoming on a Portrait of, and him being there, like hearing the raw song, no hook, nothing, and just like, yo, like this shit is real, right? And I'm crying, like real tears. I'm like, yo, this shit is crazy, you know, and
Wow.
it's amazing, bro.
I mean, after that, like talk to me about making a portrait of, because you know, you mentioned a story as like deep and powerful as that. And you know, like you do, I feel like you put so much of yourself into all your music, but like this album in particular is so, there's so many details just about your upbringing, crushes you had, stuff that you've overcome. Like, talk to me about this project. why making it with Vic was so important, and like what he brought out of you, and just like why was now the time for a portrait of? Because like of course, like the cover is like your face, and the like the traditional black and white, like it's like this is like it's a statement. The whole thing's a statement. So like why was now time for the statement?
I was well, first, thank you for catching that, for seeing that, and understanding that's exactly what it was. It was a it was a coming into myself. I've gone through a divorce. I've had to start all over, and by starting all over, I got back to me. And what I loved about the music, the art, the culture of hip hop, and just of music is that you had to put yourself into the music, right? So when I listen to the music, like the vulnerability of a song like "Silly" by Denise Williams, or "Return of the Mac," the bravado of that record.
Mm-hmm.
It just or the coolness of a record like "Cool It Now" by New Edition. Just all these different things like just played such a huge role. And I had to go through every step of the phase. I had to become now a producer, right? Because I'm working with Kenny, I'm learning from Kenny early on in my career and how much control he had over the process. And then, I move on from Kenny, and I go do a record with 38 Special, and I'm seeing how Special kind of just lets you have your own leeway and just do what you want.
Yeah, Special is
On the
different.
art,
He's
yeah,
different.
yeah, like on the artist side. And then coming into the project, 15 Minutes in Queens with Recognize Real, where that was like my first real test, or my real dip in the toe of being as vulnerable as I was on something like A Portrait of. And then going through the process of a record like Sinners and Saints with Buck, and that being a concept album, and then getting to A Portrait of, where now I'm like fully in my shit. I don't, I'm out of my marriage a couple of years. I'm fucking, like I'm back on my shit. You know what I mean? And the music is life, and and life is music, and it's all consuming for me, and I'm in love with it again. And not only am I in love with it again, but I'm adoring it again, and I'm lusting it again, and I, like all these feelings of these amorous feelings that I'm having for the music. It's all the time. It's everywhere. It's all the time. And so we get the Portrait of, and Vic and I had talked about working for a while. We met up a few times. We did a couple of songs, but they weren't songs. They were songs, but they weren't records. And so it was like, oh, this is cool. Like, the workspace is cool. Like, it's whatever. And then we got together. I believe it was a Saturday, and we recorded "Spitting Images," which is the first record on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out. Then when it was done, I was like, "That's a record. That's a record. We could build off of that. We could build off of that." And it just, I believe the next record that we recorded was Two Masters, which is the second song on the album, second record on the album. And it was just like, okay, we got something. I can pretty much
Wow.
tell right away when we have something, like if it's worth exploring further. And we just kept working. And I didn't know what it would become, but one thing that I learned from Kenny working early on is I don't listen. When I listen to, and I'm giving away a trade secret, when I'm doing an album, I listen not only to what we have, but what's missing. So if we
Mm-hmm.
have a song that is of the same tempo, or of the same vibe, or of the same message, what's missing? How do we tell the
Right.
story? Like, what do we got to fill in the gaps? And so that's why you get the ebbs and flows, and you get the different, storylines, but all thematic to A Portrait of. And it had to, and the second part, it had to be Vic, because Vic is someone who works at the same rate that I do, and
Yep.
his where he comes from, to be an Italian. I mean, his story, his fucking just his where he comes from. Like, his family history, and then to be this Italian guy with this appreciation for the culture. Like, it only made sense. Like, it only made sense.
Right. How did y'all first meet? Cause I also wanna or actually before you tell me about how y'all first met, I'm um I'm really intrigued to hear that these first two songs were wound up being the first two songs on the album, because it's so often that you'll hear artists talk about how like, oh, like this first song that I recorded for the album wound up being like number 7 or like
Yeah.
number 8 on the project. And like it's crazy to hear that the first two songs y'all recorded were the first two songs on the album. Like, not that that needs to happen for it to. I just appreciate like the serendipity of that, you know. Just a thought.
I mean, spitting. I mean, just the story of my parents in the first verse. Yeah, like you gotta start.
Right.
Let me show you where the story starts before I made my mark on every corner park bench that played a part. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, let me show you the beginning. And then for the last record to be Becoming, like that would be the two bookends. Like this is where it started and the Becoming is
Right.
the ending. So to me, it just made sense. But there just happened to be the first two records that we recorded. If I'm being honest with you, I think we recorded every song in order. I think
That's
no,
cool.
like I think maybe the only no, because we recorded Manna from no. So I for the most part the order in which we recorded is pretty much the same. I think
Mm,
Becoming and Tax Free. I think Becoming might have been recorded before Tax Free. Um, but yeah, it was yeah, it just it has to have a flow. The album has to have a feel to it. Um, and that's just how that happened like that.
right. So yeah, talk. So yeah, like real quick, talk to me about how you met Vic, and how like how he became the person who you wanted to help tell this story about you, because like you two, like like the beats are so lush and just so easy to get lost in, and they just set the stories up perfectly. It's just like a really nice it's just a nice combo of words to sounds. So like why Vic? Like how did y'all come together?
I met Vic at a party. The first time we ever met person to person was at a party. And he was like, "Yo, what up?" And he was with his then girlfriend, now wife, Carla Keys, who I had met years ago. And she introduced us, whatever, boom, boom, boom. And I had saw the name Little Vic, and I love this logo. I love this fucking logo, but I had never like tapped in. And so when I'm working on a project with Buck, he mentioned Vic. I'm like, Vic? He's like, yeah, like he's fucking dope. He's a dope rapper. He's a dope producer, whatever. And so he played me some of Vic's stuff as a rapper. And so I'm like, oh shit. Like, and so we FaceTimed him or we called him like, yo, your shit is dope. And he's like, yo, we should work. I'm like, no doubt. And so we had we talked some more. And then he did a record for Freeway. And I was like, yo, this shit is fire. I was like, yeah, that record is fire. And so, my business mind was like, yo, Vic is about to fucking blow. Let me tap in with Vic before he becomes out of reach. And so I tapped in with him and I went down, we recorded a record, we recorded a song that never came out. And it was like, okay, the vibe was cool. The vibe was cool. The food was better. The vibe was
Yeah.
cool, but we ate that night. The food was fantastic, and
What'd you eat?
this when we had Italian, of course. Uh,
Yeah, come on. What am I saying?
and this one he was down in Philly, and then he moved, and so we linked up again, and we did another joint, and that record was cool. But I was like in the middle of like I forget what project I was in the middle of, and it was like, okay, we're gonna get back up, and then we got back together for Spitting Images. That was the one where I was like, okay, like this is, and the process. I'm there and I'm seeing who's calling. Like okay, Vic is tapped in. There's other artists that I fuck with. You know, that were trying to tap in with Vic, and when we locked in, we locked in. And you know, I saw him. maybe a week ago, and I was like, "Is Vic my favorite producer?" Like I had like like I'm like, "Yo, is Vic my favorite fucking producer?" Like I had to ask myself this, and I was like, "Yo, Vic, like, are you my favorite producer?" And he's like, "Yo, like, if I am, thank you." He said, "But like, I appreciate." Like working with you, you're like one of my favorite people to work with because it's an understanding of what the other is trying to accomplish that
Mhm.
fucking makes it phenomenal, bro. It's magic.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just like people who just get you without you even needing to say anything. You just like see things the same or at least similar enough that y'all can just fill in the gaps. Like, and considering that, what like if you had to pick one song, because I mean like all these songs are so personal and they like really color in your life. But like if you had to pick one that somebody would, if you had to pick one that would be like this is what a portrait of is, like what would be your favorite song to like show somebody who had never heard the album before? I'm
Praise,
sorry to do
maybe.
this to you. Sorry, what?
Yeah, praise, maybe, because it
That's
talks
my
about.
favorite. That's so crazy.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, okay, okay. So probably praise because it talks about the the journey to be for fame, and then what the cost of that is. Like is just is that particular record. But given the day, sometimes I think it's Tanisha. Because I just
Hmm.
think like the personality behind that song, the energy behind that song, as well as the storytelling on it is very vivid. A lot of people are drawn to that record. Um, yeah, probably praise or becoming because becoming is the fucking actual story of Rasheed Chappell. But
Right.
yeah, those two, I would say praise or becoming. That's what I would say.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. Those are yeah, I could even see Tanisha. Like, like like those three songs are just like
Yeah,
so indicative of like your style and your style and just like your writing and just like, like one of the things I've always loved about your music is that like you have, you're like like your voice is like so soothing, but the shit you talk about isn't a lot of the time. And like I love that dichotomy, like it's just like the spoonful of sugar mentality, like it's just something I've always noticed. Like I just think that's
thank
interesting.
you.
I don't even have like a question or a follow-up. I just think that's really cool. Like I think that's tight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you because I guess the voice I could be making more syrupy songs, I guess, but just that's not the life I led. So
Right. Yeah, I'm just always interested when yeah, like whether it's like some like just like always like how like the voice leads into the stuff that you're talking about and just like how like the delivery just makes it work. That's always really intriguing to me.
that's
And
what's up.
yeah, nah, thank you. But my last question before we formally wrap this up is like, just like as someone who for all intents and purposes, you're basically independent at this point in your career. Is that right?
Yes, yes, I'm independent.
So, like you've kind of, like you've signed label deals, you've been through the process, and you're at this point now where you put out this super duper personal project and you have an audience that is like really tapped in with you in a way that I'm sure a lot of other people's aren't, like they're like, because like, like one of the huge benefits of being an independent artist is that people are like invested in you in a way that they aren't in somebody who might be like up there, like you're like if not at their level, close enough and familiar enough to be like, hey, I know this person, or like, hey, I'm like, we're connected. And I guess just as an independent artist, like how has it been kind of I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. How has it been kind of working at that level and keeping yourself connected with people to the point where they're ready to show up and support a project the way that they supported this one. Because even before we talked, I've seen like, you know, like there's like serious people who are like, the new Rasheed Chappell's out. Like, we need to go tap, you know, so just like, what's it been like kind of cultivating that base for yourself and putting out this project and kind of being in a space where people are really absorbing you in that way? I'm sorry if I asked that in a weird fucking way. It was
No,
I was just off the dome.
I'm digesting it. Like, that's a very good question. You know, I have to give a lot of credit to a few different people, right? So, DJ Eclipse, my manager, always said that perception sometimes is bigger than reality, right? So you always have to be aware of what people's perceptions of you are, and you know, you have to show them through every step of the way who it is that you are and what it is that you're about. Because sometimes they'll never have however long this conversation is that you and I had, right? They'll only have the 4 minutes or the 45 minutes of the album and a 2-minute brief encounter somewhere, you know, so they'll never have
Right.
the length and the breadth that you and I just shared right now. And I have to definitely give kudos to my business partner, Adam, at Perfect Time Music Group, for really telling, like, just really being adamant about us telling the story and getting the right publicists that can really help shape the narrative of who and what Rasheed Chappell is about as an artist, right? And for me, it's about Rasheed Chappell, the man, first. And he was receptive to the idea of telling that part of the story also. And so my grandfather used to always tell me, like, if somebody meets you at 6 o'clock in the morning and they bump into you again at 6 p.m., be the same person. All right, be who you are. I don't give a fuck if you're going to be a garbage man, be the best garbage man, whatever it is, be that, right? So, you know, Adam would tell me that, you know, doing these exercises, so I'm going to pull people behind the velvet rope, pull the curtain back a little bit. Like, the way this music is disseminated amongst folks, like, we still reach out to folks, right? And we reach out to people via emails, through personal connections, and based upon their response, you could tell if they're warm on an artist, if they, nah, that's not really my thing. But he said it's many times that there's a level of respect that comes along with my name that made him very willing to want to work. And I credit that to just me being a solid person. And the reason I say I'm a solid person as far as in the field of entertainment, because for me, first and foremost, it's the music. The same way you haven't lost that 4-year-old kid peeking over the seat in front of you to watch Lion King, I've never lost the love for the music. That is the most important thing to me. That, like, you talked about the voice and it could be used to make different, but it's the fucking music. If it's not coming from me, I can't do it. It doesn't feel right. I feel like I was given a gift, and to pervert it in that way would be a spit in the face of where it came from. So it's always been about the music. And if I stay true to the music, the thing that I love, then other people love the music also. If people love music also, they're going to fucking hear my music and say, okay, he loves what he's doing. And it's going to resonate with them. And so to have a fucking Italian kid from Long Island, Vic, fuck with my music the way that he does is because he loves the music the way I love the music, right? To have people in my DM telling me that records that I've done have helped them through hard times because they love the music like I love the music. They know I'm not just doing it for some bravado and some braggadocio and a gold chain or whatever the case may be, right? To have you say, yo, that fucking record's still standing, yo, like, yeah, like, what is that record about? It's not a bragging record, right? You know what I mean? So
it's a maintaining record. Yeah, definitely.
Facts, and what I came through to get to where I am. So, like, it is just like, I'm so committed to being me that it's like, yo, like, I would much rather, and you've heard this a million times, I would much rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I pretend to be. Right? So there's no pretend. My name is Rasheed Chappell. Google me. I come up. not Rasheed Chappell, born real name such and such. No, right? This is my
Right.
name, right? So there's no delineation. No line of distinction between, which is a good and bad thing sometimes, right? Because like so
Right.
much of me, it's so much of me in the music. But like, yo, like I'm giving it to you. There's a lot of people who, no names to be said, but they run around and they tell you, oh, this is art. Art tells you it's art.
Mm,
The artist
damn.
doesn't tell you it's art. So art tells you it's art. When you see it, right? When you see a fucking the sun can't talk, right? But when you see a sunset or a sunrise, you're looking at fucking art.
Yep.
Mountains don't have a voice, but when you see it, you know that you're seeing art. You're seeing something fucking divinely designed, right? And so that's how I feel about the music, right? I don't have to tell you it's art, right? My favorite artists never told you they were the best. They just made the fucking music to prove it, and that's
Mm,
where I am,
come
And
on.
so that's how I stand on it. And this current climate that we're in, I know everybody's trying to get eyes and get listens and get likes and get streams, but if you lose sight of the fucking art, if you lose sight of the love, if you lose sight of the craft, like what is it for then? And for me, it's like, yo, like $6 million a year would be great, but I could live off
Hey,
600,000. I could live off of 600
right.
grand and knowing that I'm doing it for the fucking love. So that's me.
Right. Yeah, it's more potent that way. And yeah, I'm happy you brought up your name. Because yeah, like your name is literally Rasheed Chappell, and you're like, and like you don't, like, you said it already, so I'm not gonna say it again, because like I was just thinking that the whole time, and then you said it, and I was like, damn, there it is. Just like art is art, man. Art won't tell you it's art; it'll just be, and you'll recognize that's, man. That's just, yeah, that was beautiful. I got
Thank
nothing to
you.
add to that. I got nothing to add to that. Um,
Yeah.
and the last question I have for you before we wrap is Rasheed Chappelle, if your life was a movie, what would it be about?
Oh shit. It would just be about, man, like just you know what I've been saying lately? That I'm in a season of love, man. I'm in the season of love, and not a romantic love, not a just love, man. Like what is it? All encompassing. Like that. I think that would be like my movie would be about, self-discovery, self-love, um, self-forgiveness, self-healing, self-triumph. Like it would, self-approval, self-applause. Like it would just be about that, man, and creativity. Like just I don't know. That's a very good fucking question, because the first thing that popped in my head was porn. That's the first thing. I was like, oh shit, being 100 chicks. But no, no, it would be about that. It would be about that.
But yeah, no, yeah, no, you can't go wrong with the self love like that.
Oh,
That's
I thought you were gonna say
we
you can't
need.
go wrong with the porn. Okay,
I mean, I mean, I mean that either. That either. I wasn't gonna say it, but that either. I mean, I'm not. No, get it how you live, bro. I'm not judging. I'm not
I
judging.
hear you.
Love is love in all forms.
Love is love. Love is love. Love is love.
Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far, and shout out to all the Black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.